Oh, greetings everyone. Welcome back to my channel. Again, I'm Ugo Agoruah, and this project that I'm doing is called The Transformation of Man. As you all know, we're going over the book Flow, The Psychology of the Optimal Experience by author Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. So he's a Hungarian-American psychologist who pretty much wrote this book in 1990 and became his claim to fame. So he got his PhD in psychology from the University of Chicago. He spent about 25 years researching and studying before he was able to publish this book. So he's become known as the pioneer for the pursuit of happiness and the study of positive psychology. So let's get into it. Let's get into what makes life worth living. So part one, chapter one, is pretty much an overview of what we're going to get into. It covers what the optimal experience actually is and a little bit of how to attain it. It just involves being fully present and just being fully present in whatever activity in life that you're doing, from the mundane to the super duper exciting. Just being able to control your psychic energies and your mental state to, conduce productivity. Yeah, conduce productivity. So intentional stretching the limits of our bodies and our minds. It's something that through his studies he's found out has been the most influential factor in a person's happiness. Their ability to try to grow in a skill or experience, a mindset, all of that. So the application of this theory of flow has been used all across the board for so many different things, including improving the quality of life in your work experience, in your school and learning experience. It's even put into different little video games we play, our leisure activities. Like imagine like a Temple Run, a simple game like that. It focuses your attention so strongly on achieving that goal. It puts you in a state of flow to where you don't even really pay attention to the passage of time. So yeah, it's used throughout, through everywhere. Even within the studies, as he's asking people to explain what it feels like when they're in flow, all across the board, no matter what cultures there were, people's descriptions ends up being the same. Let's go ahead and get into part two of chapter one, which was titled The Roots of Discontent. One quote that stuck out heavily to me was that no great improvement in the lot of mankind is possible until great changes take place in the constitution of our modes of thought. That was said by J.S. Mill. And what that means is just that throughout history, humankind is more focused on material achievement and power, as opposed to the context of our experiences. Like the levels of luxury that we've experienced throughout time has obviously gone up. Yet somehow our ability to feel happy, feel content and satisfied with our lives has not increased with that increase in luxury. I know they mentioned that, things that they had back then that was so rare, like bathrooms in a house, certain amount of square meals, a certain type of caliber of meal, which was hard to get back then. It's easy for us to get now, right? And these are things that brought happiness to people, or a sense of some type of happiness in the past. But now it's so easy to get, and it doesn't bring us any more close to that sense of satisfaction than it did centuries ago. So the quality of our lives is really measured by how close we can get to the ideal image of self that we have in our heads. And once one can't you know, get close to that ideal image, um, it becomes a problem. That's when we become discontent. That's when we resign ourselves. That's when we get resentful. Um, when we don't focus on the present and we're too focused on the goals we're trying to achieve or whatever that success is, that future probability of whatever. Well, we can't focus on what we're doing to get there and the journey. That's when we start getting those feelings and problems of discontentment. Part three, he dubbed shields of culture. And that's because what culture does is help provide a buffer um, between that ability to achieve the optimal image and the realities of life that we have to face every day. Culture keeps us from the chaos that is present throughout the universe. It gives us a safety net, reassurance in a way, and takes our focus away from our higher goals, our higher conscious goals, and brings it to the level of societal norms and achievements that the masses have deemed achievable for us to, touch on. I take, for instance, track runners. I believe at a certain point, I don't know the actual fine numbers, so don't chew me up too much. But there was a certain speed that was unbeatable in the past, right? Because society told you that it was unbeatable. This is as fast as a human being can run. Once someone was able to break that record through focus on his own ideal image of self as opposed to what society has told him was possible. Once he was able to break that, other people were then able to break that following him easier. So culture provides us with different forms of escape. Things like gardening, art collecting, even the use of drugs and alcohol. They keep out the discontentment we might feel from not being able to move towards our ideal self. But that loses potency over time. It doesn't stay as effective as when you first start doing whatever that escape is, unless it's something that is a stepping stone for you getting to that ideal place of self. So religion has been another buffer that has helped people take their attention away from the uncertainties of life by giving them doctrines, creeds, explanations for the unknowns in the world, keeping us from feeling like life is futile, whatever. Life doesn't matter, but it does. You find your own reason, you find your own purpose, your happiness, and you work towards that. So, when it comes to reclaiming our experience, we have to understand that civilization, first of all, was or is based off of the repression of our individual desires. And this is something that's instilled in us from childhood. So as children, as we're being repressed and, set to live a certain type of life that isn't what we naturally want, it leads to frustration. And that frustration then in turn leads, as we age, into irrationality as adults, into defense mechanisms and habits that keep you from reaching your optimal self. They use social controls to hold civilization in place. And these social controls are often social controls are often playing on our sense of survival through the pain and pleasure principles. So of course you've heard of types of punishments, from hands being cut off for stealing to beheading or jail, whatever the case may be. That's playing on our sense of survival, and that's how they get us. So as an individual, we have to achieve some type of autonomy from these environmental factors. We have to free ourselves from societal rewards and punishments, and instead form our own, so we can detach from what society has told us we need to do or think like to achieve success. So besides society, there's also our genetics that come into play. Man, they want to conquer everything. I say have sex with everything. A lot of that comes from just that genetic coding to reproduce and spread their seed. But if we have higher desires, higher wishes and wants for ourselves, we have to be able to develop a certain type of resistance towards these impulses, towards these desires, these carnal desires, as well as others. So gaining discipline and perseverance, resistance to genetic and societal programming is a important, vital part of being able to control our psychic energy, so we can control our inner experience. When we can give ourselves our own goals and rewards instead of relying on those set by society or set by our genetics, that's when we can truly gain control of ourselves. Also, what we choose to focus on is of utmost importance. A lot of people have said that the future is important, or the past is important. Yeah, they're important, but nothing's as important as the present. Are you right now doing something that you feel like your ideal self would be doing right now? It's not like the thought of, oh yeah, in the future I'll be like this is what I'll do because this is the type of person I'll become. You have to be doing those things now. You have to be acting as if you're already that person. And in doing that, you're bringing that goal, that achievement, that much closer. So the control of consciousness is not an easy feat. It takes dedication. It takes perseverance. It requires commitment of will, commitment of emotion. The same way you would learn a skill or pick up an instrument, whatever. It's the same type of deal. It develops with constant, intentional usage. Always trying to direct yourself, direct your life, and not just acting on impulses. And that was a lot of what I learned from part 5 of chapter 1. Another thing they touched on was psychoanalysis, the study of the id, which they considered like a servant of your genes, versus the superego, which they considered a servant of society, versus your actual ego, which is really just yourself in connection to your environment around you. Being able to free oneself from those is being able to understand how you fit within each of those categories. Knowing thyself is of utmost importance. Knowing who you are, knowing what your habits are, knowing what to keep away from you to keep you disciplined, so you don't fall into those old habits. Continually, intentionally setting yourself up for success, because one who knows himself knows what it takes for himself to be successful in whatever he does. He's seen success in his life before. He's seen failure in his life before. So to know yourself and to put into action knowing yourself is to be taking those preventative measures and to be putting ourselves in the best situations possible to get to that highest sense of self. And that's about it for chapter 1. Excuse that phone. That's about it for chapter 1. I'm looking forward to getting to chapter 2. If you have any comments, questions, more insight for me, please leave a comment below and like, subscribe, all that stuff. Thanks again for being with me for this experience. I love it. So keep learning, keep living, be blessed.